everyone. This is Jennifer Moore with Plant Fed Wellness. Today I'm here to talk to you about different natural products that may help with kidney disease. So, some of these I recommend regularly, some of them are just pretty common. Please note that there are hundreds of different products out there that could possibly help with kidney disease. Anyway, so I can't possibly cover every last thing that you might run into that's out there, but a few of these I think are pretty good to cover. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. Okay, so natural products to help chronic kidney disease. So today we're going to consider hibiscus tea, Renadil, berberine, milk thistle, and resveratrol. So we're starting with hibiscus tea, or hibiscus, I should say, because it comes in different forms. So hibiscus sabdariffa, what is it? So you want it to say sabdariffa whenever you're ordering this. It's from the hibiscus sabdariffa flower. So it's just a natural flower. It's usually the products are made from the petals or the calyx, and they make this into teas and tinctures and powders. And so why this helps people with kidney disease is that it lowers blood pressure, it fights inflammation, it protects the kidneys, and there's no adverse effects from daily consumption. So you could take this every single day, which I actually do. High blood pressure runs in my family, and I don't want to have high blood pressure or be on high blood pressure medication. And so, in order to keep mine good and healthy and normal, I drink hibiscus tea and take the tincture every single day. Another interesting encounter I had with hibiscus was when I was on a mission trip in Guatemala. In places like that, they don't necessarily have the fallback, I guess you could call it a fallback of dialysis, where maybe the physicians just say, you know what, there's not really a whole lot more we can do, but put you on an ACE or ARB and wait until you land on dialysis, because that's not an option. So they are more prone in places like that or places like India to use natural ways of controlling progression of kidney disease. So if you look at some research on Sabdariffa, there was a 2015 study that compared hibiscus to lisinopril. Lisinopril is a very common blood pressure medication. It's an ACE inhibitor. So let me show you. I'm going to go over one slide and come back. What is an ACE inhibitor? So blood pressure regulation in the body is partially controlled by a system called RAS, the renal angiotensin aldosterone system. And so what this is, you don't have to remember that big name. Your liver produces something called angiotensinogen. And a lot of things in your body are like this. It's almost like a recipe. Like step one, we make angiotensinogen. Step two, the kidney brings in renin. They come together and they form angiotensin 1. Then you have to have an enzyme. Enzymes catalyze reactions. They make up reactions go. So you can think it was the gas that you put into this reaction. So the lungs produce what's called angiotensin converting enzyme. And that will cause angiotensin 1 to go to angiotensin 2. Now, lisinopril is an ACE inhibitor, meaning that it stops this enzyme. So every step that happens after that won't happen. Well, why is that important? Because as you go from angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, then that causes vasoconstriction. You can see the vessels over here, they vasoconstrict, meaning they close up a little bit. Well, blood pressure, do you think there's more blood pressure in a closed vasculature or one that's more open? Blood pressure goes up in one that's more closed because it's pushing against the artery walls. So that is why you might take an ACE inhibitor. Well, hibiscus does the same thing. And so in this trial, going back now, there were 78 newly diagnosed but untreated people with hypertension. And what they found was that hibiscus reduced that ACE, serum ACE, and plasma aldosterone, which is the very last step of that process, as well as the drug lisinopril, which I find pretty fascinating. Another way that hibiscus works is by lowering inflammation. So this was a randomized control, single-blind, 2-mil crossover study, meaning that it was the same people. They just crossed them over between treatments. Okay, one treatment was hibiscus in water, and the other was just water. And what they found was significant improvements in C-reactive protein, which you see here, it goes down. in the people who drink the hibiscus, showing that it does indeed lower inflammation because C-reactive protein is a marker of inflammation. If you want to know why inflammation is important for kidney disease, I have a whole slide deck on that, talks about that, but it will progress kidney damage if you are inflamed. And then, as far as it being just particularly nephroprotective, this was a study. It was 60 patients. These had diabetic nephropathy. And so they supplemented with the hibiscus pills twice daily. And they noticed improved renal function, lower BUN, lower blood creatinine, lower urine creatinine, and lower urine albumin. All those are markers of kidney function, and it improved all of those. All right. So now let's get practical. How are you going to take it? Well, you could drink the tea several times a day, either hot or cold. I like it cold. And I actually mix it with green tea because I don't love green tea. And so it kind of, hibiscus is a little bit tart. So I like the taste of it. I put a hibiscus and a decaf green in the morning. I go ahead and make 2 cups and I squeeze some lemon in there. And then I let it cool off. And then at lunch, I put ice in it and have it with my lunch. And then at dinner, at night, I put ice in it and have it with my dinner. That's how I do the tea. The tincture, I just put in water. A tincture is like this picture here on the left, with the dropper. You just drop some drops over in the water. And then you could also do powder. I've done hibiscus powder before. I've put it in my smoothies. So any of those are fine. Okay, moving on. Renadil, what is it? Renadil is a probiotic. So probiotics are healthy bacteria. You can have a probiotic in a pill form. You can have probiotics in food, and you have probiotics, healthy microbes in your gut. But this one is very specific to chronic kidney disease. It was launched in 2011 by a company called Kybo. Okay, so why does this help? Well, you may think, well, why are you telling me about the gut when we're talking about the kidneys? Again, I have a whole slide deck on gut health and kidney health that you can go look at on this channel. But the gut talks to the kidneys. And so what we want, if you eat a lot of animal protein, so what I'm about to say is this is really, Renadil is kind of I always talk to my patients about pulling levers. What is the strongest lever we can pull to help your kidney function? The strongest lever for your gut is a very diverse plant-based diet. There was a study called the American Gut Health Project. And what people walked away with from this huge study is eat a large variety of fruits and vegetables. That's what makes you have the healthiest gut. Okay. But when you eat animal protein, you feed gut microbes that produce kidney toxins. See, all the bacteria in your gut, they produce things. And so when you're eating a lot of animal protein, they're going to produce kidney toxins. And so the plant-based diet is the first lever. This is the second lever. So in chronic kidney disease, you know that things like urea and creatinine, they build up in the blood. And so this formulation metabolizes some of those kidney toxins, and they're finally excreted via the gut, not the kidneys, which lessens the strain on the kidneys. So you want that. They have some pretty good research. This is a 6-month randomized double-blind placebo-controlled crossover trial. So that's a really good trial. Okay, and so what they did was they put people on one protocol and then they crossed over to the other protocol and looked at Renadil's effect on BUN, creatinine, and uric acid. And what they found for BUN in 29 patients, that went down by 63%. That's pretty big. And then creatinine in 20 patients was down 43%. So they said that wasn't statistically significant, but I still think creatinine going down 43% is pretty good. And then uric acid in 15 patients went down 33%, which was not statistically significant again, but 33% of uric acid going down, I think is pretty good. So anyway, I think Renadil, a lot of people want to take a probiotic anyway. If you have somebody with chronic kidney disease, I would recommend Renadil. All right. Berberine. I often say berberine is my favorite supplement. I absolutely love it. It does so many things. What is berberine? So they call it a bioactive. What does that mean? It just means that it has an effect on people, on an organism. It's found in plants. So these are some of the plants like barberry, golden seal, and it has a very long history of use in not less traditional medicine, not Western medicine, things like Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine. Um, a lot of people, since I recommend this so much, people will go out and start reading about it and say, can I take with this? Can I do this? Can I do that? And because they're worried about the safety of it. It is very safe. Side effects, which I have never had myself. I take berberine every day. Nausea, abdominal pain, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. No one I've ever used this with has ever told me that they have those. You wouldn't want to use it if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, but most kidney patients are not. So, but just covering all the safety. Then a lot of times people will be taking other supplements. And so they ask me, well, can I take it with this? Can I take it with that? So the first supplement interactions, the only ones that I've really seen as I've researched, we'll talk about drug interactions next. If you take CBD oil, it might slow the body's ability to remove berberine. So it could increase the effect. And then, which I don't think is a big deal. And then probiotics, berberine could kill certain probiotics. So just don't take them together. So that's not a very big deal either. Okay. Now, drug interactions. There's certain drugs that may decrease how quickly berberine's broken down, so it could increase the effects. So things like cyclosporin, losartan, Prograf, anti-diabetic drugs. So berberine will lower cholesterol. It will lower blood glucose. It will lower blood pressure. It just does so many great things. But if you're already on anti-diabetic drugs, it could make your glucose go too low. So if someone comes to me, they're on metformin, I probably wouldn't start berberine. It can make your blood pressure go too low, although I have started berberine on people if their blood pressure isn't already naturally kind of going low. But usually if someone's on a blood pressure medication, it's running high. So I don't necessarily worry about that. And then, like I said, metformin. I don't usually start it, but it says that you could take berberine and metformin at the same time, and it doesn't appear to increase the amount of metformin in the body. I just try to be really careful with if somebody's got blood sugar issues and they're already on something. Practical use. Like I said, berberine lowers glucose, lowers cholesterol, is great with weight management, PCOS, fatty liver, gut health, and kidney preservation. It just does so many things. How it helps cholesterol. So this is what really drew me to berberine because again, I have the ApoE4 gene. My body loves to hyperabsorb cholesterol. It loves to hyperproduce cholesterol. And I really don't want to take a statin. Not saying that I won't ever. I just, if I can keep from it, I would like not to. So berberine activates something called AMPK. So AMPK, you don't really have to know in detail what this is, but like if someone's fasting, AMPK is going to go up because it's almost like your body is going to stop making glucose, stop making cholesterol because it feels like it's not it's in the presence of low energy, so it doesn't want to overproduce these things. Trying to see if I can explain that a little bit better, but let me just say this. Okay, so AMPK regulates cellular energy. It shuts down glucose and lipid synthesis and stimulates glucose and lipid oxidation. That's a little bit better. So basically, it will begin to use the glucose and lipids that you have on your body because it feels like that you are not taking those things in, basically. That's what AMPK does. Berberine stimulates that. So you want that. So you're going to suppress lipid synthesis in the liver. Well, my liver makes too much, so I would like to do that. And it promotes lipid breakdown, which I would like to do that. It also can extends the life of the LDL receptor in the liver. What does that mean? That means like in your liver, you have these receptors that come up and they take LDL cholesterol out of the blood back into the liver and discard it. And so these should regenerate and keep doing that. And so berberine helps those. It extends the life of those. It helps those receptors keep regenerating and pulling LDL cholesterol out of the blood. And then the last thing it does is that it blocks absorption of cholesterol in the intestines, which is also nice because some people hyperabsorb, like me. Um, how it helps glucose. And let me just say all these things. So we're talking about kidney disease, but I always tell people if you're a kidney patient, you're a heart patient. So you should know about this because you're at risk for heart disease. A lot of people who have kidney disease because they're diabetic, and the diabetes, the elevated blood glucose has damaged their kidneys. So berberine helps with glucose. It enhances insulin sensitivity. It enhances insulin secretion, and it slows carbohydrate absorption from the gut so you don't get this glucose surge in your gut. Now, specifically to kidney function, what does it do? Lowers inflammation, which we've already talked about why that helps. It lowers blood pressure. We know that blood pressure is one of the main causes of kidney damage and kidney failure. It lowers the excretion of microalbumin. That's protein in the urine. We know that is a big deal. That is one of the main markers of progression of kidney disease. Inhibits apoptosis. So what is that? That is cell death in kidney cells. We don't want kidney cells to die. So it helps to preserve those. If you're getting cancer treatment for some reason, sometimes people have come with kidney damage because of cancer treatment, drugs like cisplatin and things like that. And then it inhibits the production of those gut-derived uremic toxins that we just talked about with when I was talking about Renadil, that berberine also helps your body not produce those kidney toxins in the gut. You could just not eat a lot of animal protein though, and then you also would produce those kidney toxins. But so this is a second lever. You take it in supplement form, 500 milligrams twice daily if the main reason is for kidney disease or cardiovascular disease. If you're diabetic and you're not taking anything else, or if your blood sugar's running high, if you're pre-diabetic, you can take up to 1,500 milligrams. So I'll tell people like that, take one at every meal to lower the blood sugar at every meal. But I always work with a healthcare provider to find the dose that is right for you. Okay. Milk thistle. This one I'm not as familiar with because I don't recommend it as much, but a lot of people I find take it or talk about it. Um, it was really originally used for liver disease. The active ingredient is silymarin. I guess I'm saying that right. And it can be taken as tea, pill form, or liquid extracts. Why does it help? Okay, so it is antioxidant and it is anti-inflammatory, anti-fibrotic. That means it protects against scarring. So you've probably, if you've watched any of my videos, you never want your nephrons to scar, like the podocyte. You don't want that to detach and scar. That's the part of the basement membrane of the kidney, because once it scars, it never comes back. So that's a good thing. Um, it will, specific to kidneys, prevent excessive pre-renal fat infiltration, decreases interstitial inflammation, so the inflammation in between the cells and things, and then prevents damage again from certain drugs, like the one I mentioned, like cisplatin, cyclosporin, things like that. So most of the research, though, that I have been able to find for milk thistle has been in animal studies, and most of the benefit is really anti-inflammatory. That's not a bad thing. I think it's safe. It's well tolerated. I don't think it would hurt you if you have read something and you feel like it's something you want to try. If you are allergic to ragweed, chrysanthemum, marigold, or daisy, probably don't want to take it. And then certain drugs that you want to not take it with is hyperglycemic. Again, you probably want to watch it. It can lower blood sugar. Blood thinners, HIV, sirolimus, those are for like kidney transplant, things like that. Okay. Resveratrol. Resveratrol really has been known more in the cardiovascular space, but I think it's a good supplement. It's a polyphenol. That just means that it's a plant compound that reduces inflammation. So it acts like an antioxidant. It can be obtained in food, in capsules, and powders. It's fat soluble, so you always want to take it with a meal. Okay, so the biggest thing again though with this one is mainly that it lowers inflammation, which is a good thing. It does some other things too. So by activating something called NRF2, that's just the pathway. So we can get, when we lower inflammation, you probably heard me talk about, and if you haven't, go back to the inflammation slides, um, antioxidants. So we have antioxidants in food, and those are very important for lowering inflammation. But your body also makes antioxidants. Those are even more important. But you have to upregulate a certain pathway for your body to do so, and that's called NRF2, and resveratrol helps your body do that. So it will increase certain one. That's just something that helps your body use energy. It helps with a lot of people think it helps like with anti-aging and potentially increasing lifespan, things like that. And it inhibits mTOR. So mTOR is kind of the opposite of AMPK. mTOR is more of a like it helps rebuild the body. So remember I said AMPK is like in the presence of not in the presence of food. So it causes your body to break down its own lipids and glucose and things because there's not food or an energy source there. mTOR rebuilds. So for example, if you eat protein and nutrients, it responds to those and like would say like rebuild muscle or things like that. But excessive mTOR has been linked to accelerated aging and type 2 diabetes and certain cancers. So you don't want too much. You don't want too little, but you don't want too much either. But so that's why it's kind of good that it inhibits it. Most people in America, they're eating all the time and they're eating too much, so they probably have way too much mTOR. And then it possibly improves renal function. So one of the trials, this was a meta-analysis. So meta-analysis just means they looked at a bunch of trials and pulled together all the information and what did they see? And so they did see that resveratrol can lower BUN and creatinine and increase the GFR a little bit. So this might be something worth trying. I haven't used it a lot, but not to say that I wouldn't, especially if someone had cardiovascular and renal issues, it might be a good way to go. So safety, just avoid if you have a bleeding disorder or if you're on blood thinners. Okay. So what is the summary here on all of these products? Food first. I always say I'm a food first dietitian. So the biggest lever you can pull is eating a whole food, nutrient dense, plant-based diet. Supplements though can be helpful, and I use supplements. Always make sure you're using reputable suppliers because there's a million one of those of them out there. I would not be going to Kroger and Walmart and just buying something off the shelf. And work with a renal dietitian for more guidance. So you may have somebody that you already want to work with, but if you'd like to connect with me, my email is jen@plantfedwellness.com. Or you could just go to plantfedwellness.com and find links to work with me. If you would like to scan, the one on the left will take you, if you want to build insurance, it'll take you to my insurance portal. If you don't, just email me. If you want to self-pay, email me and I'll put you in a different portal. The right is a link to my book, Plant Fed Kidneys. Be sure to get the one that says for the patient because it was written especially for you. Every chapter is 10 pages or less. Every recipe is 5 ingredients or less because patients told me they don't like to read and they don't like to cook. So that's what I did. But I'd love to work with you if you feel like you need help. And then you can also watch the videos on this YouTube channel, and that may be just enough help for you. And so these are my references, and that is all. So anyway, I hope that this has been helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.